listening to the Third Coast Gridiron on the LSG Network with your host, Marc Henry.
Week 3 is upon us, man, and we're back in the building. Of course, I am your host, Marc Henry, here on the Third Coast Gridiron on the Lone Star Gridiron Network, man, H-Sounds podcast. Man, we're going to recap Week 2, and then we're going to talk about Week 3. Man, it's really, man, it's moving too fast, man. Slow down, football season, slow down. Real talk, man. This is the best time of the year. Of course, we're in September. A little bit before district starts, a few more matchups to talk about around the H. And definitely we might talk about some around the state of Texas as well. Talk about a little rankings as well in the state of Texas. Just break that down, 4A, 5A, and so on. Right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We're going to take a small break. We're going to come back and recap Week 2 right here on the TCG.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
We're back right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. Let's wrap up Week 2, man. Lots of big action out there, man. And let's start with Summer Creek. Summer Creek's one of those schools that we've been talking about as a team that can possibly make it back to the state championship game. Now, a couple years ago, they did come out. They did make the state title game, but, it just wasn't a close game. Let's just say that when they ran into that buzzsaw, which was DeSoto. I mean, at that particular time in that year, DeSoto was probably the best team in the country. Let's say that. But the Bulldogs have been putting up monster numbers. They have a 58-14 victory over a very good Lamar Texan team. Right now, the Bulldogs are ranked number 6 in the state of Texas. We told you we talk about a little rankings. That's what we're going to talk about today. Just kind of break some of these things down that happened last week. I mean, I think Summer Creek's one of those teams that's showing you that they have the keys, the recipe, over there with Coach Harrison to get this thing done. I think that these guys know that they can get it done. They got a real good football team. But let's talk about the quarterback position. Noah Spinks is a guy that came from the North Texas area. He moved down, transferred in, 25 of 30 for 286 yards and 5 touchdowns. 3 of those to Holden Miller. Now, we know that these guys have some talented guys on the outside. You know about Benny Easter, but Holden Miller is one of those guys that's definitely should be on college radars. He's one of those guys that gets the dirty work done. But listen, he may not be as flashy as some of the other guys, but he's a guy with the skill set to make plays. 9 catches for 65 yards. Trenton Thomas is another guy, 123 yards on 3 catches against Lamar. And Jamaica Jones, 87 yards on 7 catches. Now, we talked about Benny Easter, who had 214 yards in the first week against Shadow Creek. But I think that the Creek, when we talk about Summer Creek, they're set up to win now. These guys know that they got their work cut out for them. They got Atascocita, they got North Shore, King Woods over there. And listen, don't sleep on C. King as well. These teams definitely know that they're going to have to fight for this title over there in 23-6A. Let's talk about College Park. Yes, College Park, 2-0, the Cavaliers, with a 73-6 victory, and they beat Klein Kane 58-21 in week 1. They've scored 34 points in 2 games. They're 2-0 for the first time since 2019. And listen, guys, they're a stone cold contender in 13-6A. I like the quarterback that they got, the signal caller, the QB1, if you want to call him, Camden Hughes. He's been balling out of control. Against Kane, he was 24-34 for 471 yards and 6 tutties. Now, the big pickup this year is Julian Cromartie. I've been watching the tape on this guy since he touched down a couple of months ago. He's got that NFL pedigree. Of course, he's the son of Antonio Cromartie. But listen, 9 catches for 239 yards and 2 tutties, 27 yards a catch. Those are monster numbers. He's a guy that you definitely got to pull up on, man. I'm going to have to pull up on College Park, man. Hey, the TCG's going to come through and check y'all out, man. Definitely a team that's on the rise in the H and College Park. I like what they're doing, man. Let's just hope. Let's hop over, man, to The Tigers, man. Fort Bend Travis is a team that's been on the come up. Now, when you talk about Fort Bend, it's always Fort Bend Ridge Point, it's always Fort Bend Marshall, it's always these teams that overshadow the Travis Tigers. But they got a big 27-16 win over a very good Jordan team out of the Katy district over there, and they're ranked number 21 in the state. Last season they were 5-6 on the season, and they had a first round exit. But listen, senior safety Northwestern commit Davis Kenny, listen, a playmaker, had an 86-yard interception return for a touchdown with under a minute to play to kind of seal the deal for Travis. We got to see what they do when they get to 21-6A play. That's the big thing. They've been kind of one of those teams that's always had that talent, has always had, kind of the big brother standing over them when it comes to when you talk about the Fort Bend area, the Marshalls, the Ridge Points, and those teams just get a lot more of the glory over there. But you got to watch the Travis Tigers this year. This is a team that's definitely going to be having something to say coming out of that area as well. Now, listen, we're going to travel over to Klein and talk about Klein Collins. Now, Klein Collins is in the same district with Klein Oak. You got Kane, you got the Tomball schools and things like that over there. This 15-6A has always been competitive. Collins has been one of those teams that's kind of been flying under the radar. They kind of had, teams that have made the playoffs the last couple of years. But listen, they might be a real serious contender. 2 games in, they've been making some big noise. You know what I'm saying? And they dominated a talented Willis team, 42-13, ending Willis's 21-game win streak. The Tigers also started the season with a 35-28 win over a very good College Station team that was ranked number 8 at the time in 5A D1. But, Coach Mitchell has always had these good teams over there. He's always had talented playmakers over there. This is a team that you want to watch. They're coming out hard. 15-6A is going to be very competitive over there. Now, let's talk about Pearland. And listen, they've been one of the most impressive teams in the H early this season. Senior running back, Jamari Champion. Listen, he's a guy that runs that pill, man. He totes the rock. He gets it done. Right now, Pearland's ranked number 12 in the state. They got a 37-26 victory over Memorial. Champion, 269 yards and 3 tutties. Averaged over 11 yards an attempt. That's running that peel. That's hog stuff, man. That means the offensive line is getting after it. And, listen, the Oilers have been one of those teams that's been really, really good the last couple of years. Over in that district, you got Manville, you got Dawson, you got Dobie, you got Shadow Creek. This is a very tough district, probably one of the toughest districts in the Houston area. They got a big showdown October 24th. I'm saying it now. Man, we might have to pull up H-Town, TCG in the building. May have to pull up for that one against Shadow Creek. Could be for the district title. Usually is when you talk about those teams over there. But I really think that, hey, this is a team that you need to look at, over in that area. We're talking about some teams that probably not a lot of people have been talking about this year. The Travises, the Klein Collins and those teams like that. Because, when we look at this matchup last week against Willis, hey, we know that Jermaine Bishop Jr. is a guy, Texas commit. But they shut this guy down, and they did a big, big job of getting that done. And I think this is a reason that some of these teams that we're talking about kind of flying under the radar, but they might have a chance to make a playoff run and really make some things happen when it comes to playoff teams. Man, listen, we're going to talk about some outstanding players, TCG players of the week, and then we're going to get to week 3 and wrap this thing up right here on the Lone Star Gridiron Network, the authority for high school football. I'm Marc Henry. We're going to take a small break. We'll be right back. And we'll talk about some outstanding players from week 2 right here on the TCG.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it. Families share it. And your program benefits. Get the free information kit at lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. That's lonestarpodcast.com/coaches. coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.
What it do? We're back. Let's talk game breakers for the TCG this week. Braden Baker, junior quarterback over at Cypress Ranch. He's been a guy that's been bubbling in the last couple of years, and he's got the opportunity to take over. And listen, Cypress Ranch is a very good team. They have some pieces over there, and they can make a run to make a playoff appearance this year. But Baker, he went 12 for 15 for 414 yards, 5 tutties. And listen, Cy Ranch had over 500 yards of offense in a big victory, 62-7 over New Caney. Colson Collins, junior quarterback over at John Cooper. Of course, the big news was shout out to my guy, Jacoby Dixon, who's now over there at John Cooper. But listen, the QB is nothing to sneeze at. Collins had a big outing this past weekend. 14 for 21, 330 yards and 6 tutties, averaging over 23 yards of completion. Jacoby Dixon is expected to be in the lineup this week against Lutheran South over there for John Cooper. I think this is a team that you definitely have to keep your eye on when it comes to private school ranks. Listen, man, shout out to Do It Everything U of H commit. Man, shout out to Keyshawn Henderson. On the national stage, let me tell you about this, man. First of all, we know that Keyshawn's a phenomenal talent. I've said this and been on record. Hey, U of H did a heck of a job of keeping one of the best playmakers in the country in the H. I can't wait till he gets over to Third Ward and the south side of things and get started at U of H, man. He's going to be a phenomenal talent. Shout out to the Cougars 2-0 on the year so far as well. Big victory over Rice. But Keyshawn Henderson, 30 of 38 for 537 yards and 5 tutties, rushed for 116 and another score. Man, they came up short and lost to Port Arthur Memorial, which is a state-ranked team. That's a team, they got some dogs over there at Port Arthur Memorial. For him to put up 500 yards against a very good defense is saying something. This guy is super talented. Shout out to Mike Brown, the Texas A&M commit, who also showed up and pulled up for 11 catches for 216 yards and 4 tutties. They got some top-flight Division I DBs in that secondary over there. Shout out to Mike Brown. Shout out to Keyshawn Henderson for getting it done. Listen, John Herbert at Strake Jesuit. Listen, if you're not paying attention to what this guy's been doing the last 3 or 4 years, you had to have been sleeping under a rock. Herbert's been one of the best rushers in the H, state of Texas, and nationally, the second leading rusher in the country last year, and he got it done. He's been going off the first 2 games of the season, and he's got his team ready to go, and they're going to be a playoff team over at Jesuit, man. But listen, we're going to take a small break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about a few top performances. Again, we broke down week 2. We still have the rankings to go, and we're still going to break down week 3 right here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron, on the LSG Network.
Hey, do you need topsoil, fill dirt, sand, mulch, gravel, limestone, you name it? Do you need that delivered and or spread? Texas Tree Cycle in Victoria has you covered for residential and commercial projects, big or small. These guys do it all. They do some amazing work. You can call them at 361-237-8006 for a free estimate. That's Texas Tree Cycle, bringing quality materials to your yard.
All right, Marc Henry back here on the Third Coast Gridiron, the TCG on the LSG Network. Let's talk a few big-time performances coming out of the H in week 2. You got to start with Braden Baker, the quarterback over at Cypress Ranch High School. Man, he had a phenomenal outing in a 62-7 win over New Caney. Threw for 414 yards, was efficient, 12 of 15. That's saying something. And 5 tutties on the night. Great job by Baker. And listen, Baker's one of those guys in the 2027 class that's been flying under the radar. It looks like he's well off to having a great season. There'll be some college recruiters looking at this guy. I've had a chance to see him since he was probably in the 7th, 8th grade on the 707 circuit and some camp circuits. He's starting to come into his own and fill out, maturity-wise with his body. He's a guy that's about 6'3", 6'4", and can sling it. Be careful about Cypress Ranch. I'm telling you right now, Braden Baker's a guy you need to know about. Colson Collins, the junior quarterback over at John Cooper High School, had a phenomenal outing in a 53-34 win over Lutheran. Man, another efficient performance by a QB. 14-21 for 330 yards and 6 tutties, over 23 yards of completion as he got it done for John Cooper. 5-star quarterback Keyshawn Henderson had a monster outing, over 537 yards and 5 touchdowns, and he rushed for a tutty and 116 on the ground. Now, they came up short as a team, and listen, that's a very good Port Arthur Memorial team. They are a state-ranked team. They got a lot of Division I talent, especially on the defensive side of the football. Great offensive line. Memorial's a team you need to watch coming out of that PA area, man. Shout out to Memorial for the big victory. But listen, it was very hard to contain Henderson. And shout out to Mike Brown, the Texas A&M commit, 11 catches for 216 yards and 4 touchdowns. John Herbert over at Strake Judge was one of the best running backs in the state. You heard it here. You know it. Now, if you've been living under the rock, you don't know what he did last year. This is a potent runner. He's a guy that can get it done. And they had a big game, for the Crusaders in a 35-21 win over Aldine Davis the previous week. Now, he had 118 yards in his season debut, but he exploded for 237 and 4 tutties on 36 carries, man. This is a very good running back. He's one of the best running backs in the senior class in the state of Texas, not just in the H. And he gets it done, man. Keep a watch on this guy. I'm telling you right now, he did some big things last year, and he's one of those guys that, man, you got to pull up and see this guy. Compact build, speed, runs with power, man. He's one of those guys. You're not arm tackling this guy. You got to bring hats to the ball when you get with this guy. Shout out to the Woodlands Christian and Santiago Fernandez, the senior quarterback, had an outstanding night. I'm telling you, listen, we don't talk about private schools enough sometimes. They get overlooked, but he got it done, man. An outstanding performance through the air and on the ground in a 64-28 win over East Bernard, 11-13 for 314 yards, 3 touchdowns, passing, rushed for 142 and 2 more scores on the ground. This guy looks like something serious. You might want to go check him out and pull up. Man, a Johnny Mayo, Wisdom. Now, listen, Wisdom, HISD, we always got to show him some love. Last week it was Milby, but this time Wisdom gave Milby the blues, and it was Mayo doing some cooking, man. Caught 15 balls for 359 yards. 350 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaging over 23 yards a catch. Then he had 14 carries on the ground. Man, listen, Wisdom started off 2-0 this season. Man, you got to watch these guys, man. Listen, I'm telling you, man, HISD, shout out to HISD, shout out to Booker T. Washington. Man, that's the home team, the home squad. Northside, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to them boys. They got a big victory over Sam Houston this weekend, man. Man, definitely keep a watch on the Washington Eagles. I think I said that in the initial show, man, this year. Of course, this is our 6th season, man. And, we're going to show HISD some love. Shout out to Heights. Shout out to Lamar. Shout out to J.Y. Yates, Third Ward High, Madison. Shout out to all the HISD schools, man. Tap into the Third Coast, man. We're always looking out for HISD. We're going to show them boys love over there all the time, man. Listen, we're going to come back, take a small break, and we're going to break down a couple week 3 matchups in the H that we've got our eyes on for the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron. We're going to go over a little state rankings, show you where some of the teams in the H are lining up in 5A and 6A, and then we're going to be out. But we're going to take a small break right here on the LSG Network. I am your host, Marc Henry of the Third Coast Gridiron.
Lone Star Gridiron is looking for interns. Over the years, we have helped dozens of students get jobs in sports media. If you want to shortcut your path to a career in sports media, click on the internship link on LoneStarGridiron.com.
Let's get you ready for week 3 right here on the TCG, right in H-Town, man. We're going to talk about a few rankings before we look at the games that we might be keeping our eye on. 6A, up in the Dallas area right now, hey, they've been running it, but listen, the H is on that butt this week. I'm telling you, we're going to talk about it real quick. South Lake Carroll's at 1, Duncanville's at 2, North Crowley is at 3, the Allen Eagles at 4, but coming in at number 5 and coming in high, we talked about the Summer Creek Bulldogs. They're coming in, shout out to Benny Easter and those guys over there. They're getting it done. That's a team to watch, man. Definitely Fort Bend Ridge Point is a team that I have been talking about with a plethora of talent that can get it done. They come in at number 7. You got Lake Travis at 8 out of the Austin area, Euless Trinity up in Dallas. And the Dickinson Gators round out the top 10. And this is from Dave Campbell's Texas Football, of course. The top 10 for 6A. In the state of Texas. Now, let's talk about 5A D1. It's going to be interesting. Of course, you got to go back up to the DFW area with the Lido Bearcats coming in at number 1, Frisco Lone Star at 2, Smithson Valley out of the San Antonio area Denton Ryan out of the DFW. Laporte, the Bulldogs. This is why we're talking about this. This is a very good team. Sean Simon and those guys over there have a chance to do some big things. Of course, you got the Angleton Wildcats coming in at 6. Highland Park out of DFW. Abilene, Little West Texas Love coming in at 8. Pflugerville Whites out of San Antonio area. And East Texas rounding out the top 10 in 5A D1 with the Lufkin Panthers. Now, 5A Division II, of course, this is the defending state champs, the Randall Lions. They're 2-0 on the season. They are really cooking over there. Shout out to Landon Williams Callis. Listen, he's one of those guys that get it done. You know, if you hadn't seen this guy play, you've been missing out on football. You're gonna have to see him before he plays on Saturdays, because he's got every offer in the country that you can think of from every school. Just name one and he's got it. Number 2, South Oak Cliff out of the Dallas area. The Brenham Cubs. Listen, Brenham's got a good squad here. They got some talent. We got to keep an eye on those guys. They got a big one against Bryan this week. Iowa Colony, the Pioneers, of course, they are talented. Shout out to my guy, the big-time wide receiver Warren over there. He's been cutting up. And I think the Iowa Colony is going to be challenging Randall in that district. That's a game that's coming up in a couple of weeks. The TCG will be in the building for that one. I think it's September 25th or 24th. I was just looking at that, putting that on my schedule. Big circle, big star. TCG will be in the building coming to you live from that game in a couple of weeks. Number 5, Texarkana, Texas High. Number 6, Fort Bend Marshall, the Buffaloes coming in at number 6 in the state of Texas. They got to get out of that first round. That's a tough area to come out. 5A Division II is loaded around the state. You got Port Neches Groves at 7, the Argyle Eagles out of DFW, Anna out of DFW, and Alamo Heights rounding out the top 10 when it comes to 5A Division II. We'll talk about 4A and 4AD1 and 4AD2 real quick. Salina Bobcats out of DFW area 1, Canyon West is 2, Kilgore out of East Texas is 3, Stephenville, close to that DFW area, kind of West Texas, is at 4. Again, this is 4A Division I, the rankings in the state of Texas, according to Dave Campbell's Texas Football. Frisco Panther Creek, that's out of the DFW area 6. Austin, the LBJ Jaguars. That's a team to look out for in 4A Division I. Sulphur Springs out of East Texas. Alvarado out of DFW. And, of course, East Texas representing again or repping it big time with the Chapel Hill Bulldogs coming out of Tyler. Now, we'll wrap this up with 4A Division II when it comes to the state rankings. Carthage, of course, out of East Texas. They won I think 10 or 11 state titles. They got one of the best running backs in the country in KJ Edwards, the Texas A&M commit. If you hadn't seen this guy play live and you're a football enthusiast like myself, you need to pull up, man. Carthage is probably going to be back in the state title game when it comes to 4A. Pleasant Grove out of Texarkana is 2. Brock out of the DFW area is 3. Sealy, the Tigers, man, undefeated so far this year. They come in at number 4. Waco, La Vega, the Pirates are an interesting team statewide. Now, these are state rankings, 4A Division II. They come in at 5. Sunnyvale out of DFW's 6. Cuero, the Gobblers, gobbling up competition out of the Central Texas area. The Belleville Brahmas, listen, a team you need to watch coming in 4A Division II. You got to go all the way out to West Texas with the Midland Greenwood Rangers, and then out of East Texas, number 10 is Gilmer. Man, listen, the Buckeyes are a team that you need to know about as well, man. I always like to throw those rankings in there, get a statewide view of things, how it's shaping up, man. And I think that that's very important when it comes to the scheme of things and where the teams out of the H kind of fit in that. And you definitely want to always be on top of that and getting it done. I mean, I think that these guys know that these are some of the toughest districts coming out of the H. When we talk about 23-6A, you talk about 15-6A, with the Klein Colleges, the Klein Canes, the Klein Oaks. Then you can go to the Katy district with Katy Jordan, Tompkins, of course, the Katy Tigers, and kind of had a little lapses there. But, it's one of those things where these guys know that they have to get it done and they have to play big and play hard every week when it comes to being competitive as a playoff team. Let's turn our attention to a big matchup. 2 6A teams that will definitely be playoff teams and 2 of the better teams in the H. Ridge Point takes on Bridgeland. Now, Ridge Point is one of those teams that we've been talking about that has a chance, in my opinion. I think they can make a deep run. Coach LaFavors has these guys playing well. Of course, on the offensive line, you got Hugh Smith, Avery Murko, Marco, 6'5", 300, 6'5", 300. You got Romare Smith on the defensive line. Also Jordan Burnett in the trenches, 6'5". This is a team that's loaded. They just have to get the job done. Preston Hall is one of the top linebackers in the Houston area as well. Braden Bonnick is a guy you need to know about as well. I think that this is an opportunity for Ridgepoint to show that they're one of the top teams, definitely in the H. You know what I'm saying? They got a tough district in 21-6A. They got to deal with Hightower and Travis. We talked about Travis as a team that's on the come up. They're 2-0 on the season. And the Travis Tigers are looming big as a possible challenge for Ridgepoint. But, I like the Bridgeland Bears. They had a big time run last year. They ran into Duncanville in the later round of the playoffs, but they got one of the better rushers in the junior class, not just in the H, but in the state of Texas. And shout out, he's Cash Money all the time, and that's Cash Schwab. He's a guy that can get it done. He's a big time rusher. He had a phenomenal season last year for Bridgeland, and I think that this guy can definitely make a difference. Now, he's going to have to go up against a pretty stout defense when you talk about what Ridgepoint has, but I think that he's going to get his yards. Now, this is a make-or-break game for him as a big-time recruit. I think that he's definitely a guy that's going to be on that scouting report as somebody they have to stop, but I mean, this is why they play these big time games. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, him rushing for 1,668 yards and 14 touchdowns last year was nothing to sneeze at. And this guy's definitely on the map when it comes to top rushers in the Houston area. And I think this is probably the biggest game that we're going to see coming out of the H this weekend. I mean, I think this is a big time contest. Of course, Dickinson's got Cy-Fair. Now, Dickinson, the Gators have been playing some phenomenal football. And we talked about their quarterback a couple of weeks ago in Lorenzo Aguiar. He's one of those guys that can sling it. He's been performing at a phenomenal level the last couple of weeks coming out in the season. He's come out hot. And I think he's going to be a reason the Gators have an opportunity over in 24-6A to make some noise. If they can get that district title, come out as the number one seed, they position themselves to be very, very good when it comes to the playoffs. Jamal Mason's a running back over there you need to know about. Caleb Peterson as well. Jamarian Payne. Listen, Payne's a guy that I had a chance to see at a couple of camps this year. I think he's a guy that's going to be showing up, and I think he's a guy that's going to get some big-time plays going on over there for Dickinson. But Aguiar, he's the captain of the ship, and he's the reason that the Gators are in position right now early in the season to be one of those teams that'll be talked about in the H. Of course, we talked about Pearland, the Oilers. You can't forget about the Woodlands. They got a big one against Grand Oaks coming up this week. The Highlanders are a very good team. They started out 2-0 as well. Now, they weren't in the top 10, but they're in the top 25 in the state of Texas. And you can't look any further than TCU commit Jack Dalton. He's a guy that can get it done, man. Parker Stewart as well is another big-time playmaker for those guys. Colton Weddle. I like what Cody Jordan's doing over there at the running back position. This is probably one of the better teams that Coach Raps had over there in the last couple of years since maybe Matar was there. And don't sleep on the Highlanders, man. These guys have a big one against Grand Oaks. I like them in this game, but Grand Oaks is nothing to hate. They got some playmakers over there as well. But I think that, the Woodlands is a team coming out of that district over there that can get it done. Now, before we get out of this, talk about this big-time game with North Shore, who, look, they handled Crowley. They came from the DFW area and handled them, shut them out this past week. But Westfield's looming. This is always a rivalry. You got that east side, the north side rivalry that goes back, a decade or so. You know what I mean? And these guys have not been able to beat North Shore in recent memory. And Caleb Marin's playing at a high level. The senior quarterback, Utah State commit that's, under center for the Mustangs. I think that this is a game that they definitely know that they need to take care of business. Shout out to Aubrey Johnson, the top flight wide receiver. He's been balling out the last couple of weeks, the first 2 weeks of the season. He had a big-time game against Crowley as the Mustangs kind of got the ship back righted after falling to South Oak Cliff in the first week up in Dallas. But this is going to be a game that's going to be won in the trenches. North Shore's going to want to run that football. They're going to do some things with Maryland on the outside, rolling them out. But Johnson's a guy that's been his steady Eddie when it comes to his receivers here in the first couple of weeks of the season. So that's a big game that we're kind of looking at as well in the H this week, man. Here on the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron, man. Listen, we appreciate you joining us, man. This is our 6th season on the LSG Network, man. Shout out to Chris and everybody working behind the scenes. Of course, man, I am your host, Marc Henry. You can follow me on Twitter at MarkHen44 or the Third Coast Gridiron at Third Gridiron, and also Top Texas Prospects TXTP Show on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. But that's all we got for you today, man. We'll come back next week, chop it up about week 3, and then listen, it's going to be some district time coming up around the age, man. Right here, the TCG, the Third Coast Gridiron H-Sounds podcast. We'll get at you next week. We out.
Coaches, boosters, parents, every sport deserves a spotlight. From football and volleyball to basketball, soccer, baseball, softball, track, wrestling, and more. Give your athletes a weekly coaches show that builds pride and raises funds. Lone Star Podcast Network makes it turnkey. You talk for a few minutes. We handle production and distribution. Sponsors love it, families share it, and your program benefits. Get the free information kit at LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. That's LoneStarPodcast.com/coaches. Your team, your sport, your show.